The video opens with a wave of disbelief washing over the internet as the narrator explains that fans are still trying to process what just happened. Kristy and Desmond, a couple many people believed were untouchable, are officially getting divorced. This wasn't a slow breakup with warning signs or public tension leading up to it. It landed suddenly, catching even their most dedicated followers completely off guard. The narrator emphasizes how rare that is in influencer culture, where rumors usually surface months or even years before a split becomes official. What made this hit even harder was the reason cited in the filing. Infidelity, a word no one expected to ever be associated with their relationship. The narrator explains that people weren't just surprised, they were genuinely shaken because this couple had been together since they were 14 years old. That kind of history made fans feel like they had grown up alongside them. To many, this didn't feel like gossip, it felt personal. And as the shock settled in, one question started echoing everywhere. How did something that looked so solid fall apart so fast? The narrator then takes a step back, explaining why this breakup feels so much heavier than most influencer divorces. Kristy and Desmond weren't known for drama, clickbait scandals, or messy online fights. Their brand was built on stability, on long-term love, on the idea that growing together was still possible, even under the pressure of millions of eyes. They met as teenagers, stayed together through adulthood, got married in 2014, and slowly built a family and an empire side by side. Kristy became a massive lifestyle and fashion creator with tens of millions of followers across platforms, while Desmond carved out his own identity through cooking content and family-focused videos. Together, they shared prank videos, everyday family moments, and content that felt lighthearted and genuine. The narrator explains that fans didn't just watch them, they trusted them. Compared to other influencer couples who constantly battled rumors and cheating allegations, Kristy and Desmond felt like the exception, the safe couple, the proof that not everyone online was pretending. That's why this situation didn't just surprise people, it shattered an image they believed in. As the narrator continues, attention shifts to the months leading up to the divorce, which now feel unsettling in hindsight. The couple had just celebrated major milestones. Their 11-year wedding anniversary was filled with emotional posts, loving captions, and public displays of affection that made everything look stronger than ever. Before that, they threw an extravagant celebration for their 10th anniversary, complete with luxury details and widespread media coverage. To the outside world, this looked like a couple reaffirming their commitment in a big way. The narrator points out how convincing it all was. There were no awkward moments, no visible tension, no hints that anything was wrong. Even more symbolic was their move into a custom-built dream home, which they openly described as their forever home. It represented stability, success, and long-term plans. But the narrator carefully notes how social media often works this way. The bigger the smile, the harder it can be to see the cracks underneath. And now, fans are left questioning whether those celebratory moments were genuine happiness or the final attempt to hold something together that was already falling apart. The tone shifts as the narrator explains how everything unraveled quietly, but decisively. Kristy filed for divorce without warning, and when the documents surfaced, they told a story far more serious than anyone expected. According to reports, the reason cited wasn't vague or neutral. It directly pointed to alleged infidelity. The narrator explains that the paperwork described the situation as so damaging that reconciliation was no longer realistic. This wasn't a temporary separation or a trial period. It was final. Fans were left confused, especially because Kristy had still been posting with Desmond not long before the filing. There was no gradual distancing online, no unfollowing, no public hints. That contrast made the situation feel even more jarring. The narrator emphasizes how quickly public curiosity turned into pressure, with everyone waiting to hear from Desmond. Silence only made the speculation louder, and when he finally spoke, the reaction wasn't what he expected. The narrator walks through Desmond's response carefully, explaining how it was worded in a way that sounded calm, reflective, and controlled, but also deeply unsatisfying for many viewers. He apologized to Kristy, their family, and the people affected by the attention surrounding the situation. He stressed his commitment to being a present father and acknowledged that the news was disappointing. Then came the part that shifted public opinion sharply. He admitted that during a period when he wanted to separate, he made choices he wasn't proud of and took responsibility for them. While he never explicitly used certain words, the implication was clear enough. The narrator explains that what angered people most wasn't just the admission, but the timing and framing. Ending the statement by asking for continued support of his content felt tone-deaf to many. Instead of closure, it felt like damage control. The reaction was immediate, with viewers dissecting every sentence and questioning whether accountability was actually being taken. At this point, the narrator describes how the internet did what it always does after a scandal. It went back and reanalyzed everything. Old videos that once seemed funny or harmless suddenly felt uncomfortable. Moments that were ignored before now felt loaded. One detail stood out more than anything else: the cooking videos. Longtime viewers knew that Desmond was always the one cooking. It was part of his identity online. But in December, Kristy posted herself struggling alone in the kitchen, visibly stressed and joking about not knowing what she was doing. At the time, people laughed. Now those clips feel different. The narrator explains how fans started interpreting them as subtle signals that something was already wrong behind the scenes. Some viewers said they felt an off vibe back then but couldn't explain why. Others admitted they brushed it off because everything else still looked normal. In hindsight, those small moments now feel like quiet warnings that went unnoticed. The narrator closes by explaining how the situation has turned into a full-blown online debate. Some fans blame Desmond entirely, calling his actions selfish and destructive. Others argue that social media only shows curated personalities and that no one truly knows what happened behind closed doors. There's back and forth over whether their on-camera dynamic was real or exaggerated for content. But through all of it, Kristy has remained mostly silent. Instead of addressing the controversy directly, she's continued posting everyday updates, outfits, meals, home details, without commentary. The narrator points out how that silence has been interpreted by many as strength, or simply survival. With children involved and years of shared history, people understand why she might choose privacy over public explanations. And that's what makes this story linger. There are no explosive tell-alls, no dramatic confrontations, just a quiet ending to something millions believed in. And that quiet ending is exactly why people can't stop talking about it.